The time is now 6:30, so I'll call this meeting to order. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll start with roll call.
Sean Peterson.
Virginia Ave. Cindy Stearns.
Stephanie Walsh.
Lisa Garrett. Linda Peter. Naomi Smith.
And Kevin over here.
Okay. First on the agenda would be to review and accept the minutes from the April 15th meeting. Does anyone have any adjustments to it? You looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of April 15th as written.
Second. Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Yes. Okay. Motion carried. Okay. Now we'll be reviewing and accepting the minutes from the April 22nd, 2020 police workshop.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the April 22nd. I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any abstentions?
I will take that.
Okay. Motion carries. The next for tonight would be the Selectmen or the Finance Director's statement on the 2026-2027 proposed budget.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Board of Finance. I'm going to do a shared statement, if that's okay. One of those. There you go. So I would implore you to consider the input from the public last night to keep the budget as is. Any modifications at this point would leave them out of their ability to support or have input on anything you vote on that's different from what is being proposed from last night. The work you've done over the last few months stands as your presentation for a mill rate reduction. Please consider keeping these budgets intact and presented from last night. Thank you. And I would ask our Finance Director to mention some things concerning what the Governor's budget has given to the town of Plainfield, and just as a reminder.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Would you prefer a sit or stand over there? It doesn't matter. I just wanted to touch base that thank you for all the hard work that you guys have all put into this. We've worked workshops, different conversations, time, so I do appreciate the effort that you guys have all put in and us working together. So it's been enlightening. It's been fun. So our original budget did have a mill rate proposal of 0.2. The town had a 1.5% increase. And then, as we all know, Monday morning we got the email from the state. It ended up being an additional $887,509 in additional revenue. Now, I want to explain this. This isn't net of expenses. This is additional revenue. The way municipal budgets work is the taxpayers vote on the expenses. You vote on the town expenses. You vote on the capital expenditures or debt service. You vote on the school expenditures. Then you subtract out any local revenue, any use of fund balance, and the amount left over is the amount to be raised by taxation. So what happens is when we receive additional funding from the state, that reduces the amount to be raised by taxation. And the governor actually issued a press release, and I put copies in back, that they wanted the state funding gives municipalities the breathing room they need to stabilize or even reduce mill rates. By closing fund gaps for our schools and municipalities, we can help communities avoid raising property taxes. So the only reason I mention this is we did have some questions saying, hey, does that reduce the school budget? Hey, does that reduce the town budget? It doesn't reduce the expense budget that you guys are voting on. What it does is decrease the amount to be raised by taxation, which therefore reduces your mill rate. We originally had it at -0.2, and it reduces it to a -0.7. So I just figured I'd add that clarification. That's all that I had at the moment. Is that good? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your explanation. I know there was a lot of questions on that. It came last minute. Thank you. Okay. So next would be the superintendent or the business manager's statement on the 2026-2027 proposed budget.
I'm going to stand in the same spot and make the same sound Kevin made. First and foremost, thank you for everyone who sent me questions, for the time you've spent on this. I know that you're all volunteers. I know you're here because you want to have a relevant impact on this community, and I appreciate your time. I'm going to speak tonight to just answer some questions that members of the Board of Finance have asked me through the chair, to answer them for all for the purpose of discussion, and just talk about a few things I've talked about already. First and foremost, I recognize that most of this conversation is about insurance costs and the severe impact of rising insurance costs. The Board of Education came to the Board of Finance early on. I think your October meeting was actually the very first meeting where we talked about what we were facing in insurance. And if you remember, we actually made adjustments to our Board of Education budget this year and made cuts this year in programming to offset insurance costs this year. So this is something that we've been working on for at least 11 months. As far as the process of building this budget, as a reminder that our administrators, that's our building level leaders, our department heads, submit their budgets to myself and our central office staff in December. I make the first round of cuts. The second round of cuts is then made by our Board of Education. We've already gone through 2 full rounds of cuts before the Board of Finance sees it and it's actually presented to the Board of Finance. As I mentioned previously, that initial budget, that fixed cost budget with those asks, was $2 million higher than the current proposal. Now, I had someone say that seems like a really high number, and remember, asked me of the Board of Finance, is that what we're seeing other places? So I don't usually talk about other towns, but because the question came to me, we presented a 3.99 after myself and the Board of Ed made cuts. One town north of us, Killingly, just presented 7.61. Putnam just presented 7.23. Griswold last year approved their education budget of 5.97. So what we're seeing here is what we're seeing in the same story 3 places: special education, transportation, and insurance. For myself, I personally believe the insurance costs are largely driven by pharmaceuticals, and we're seeing that across the board. We worked with the town throughout this entire budget process. I would say that in my 5 years here, this is the most collaborative the school and Mr. Cunningham and the town has been in this process. We started our joint meetings in November, going through and looking at what this is. The town said for us to have a 0 mil, you have to come in under 4%. Now, coming in under 4% was difficult. I took that to my Board of Ed and I said, here we are, we're at almost 9%, I have to come in under 4. To get to 4%, we did make significant position cuts. We're not adding positions in this budget. Someone asked me on the Board of Finance, how many of those are real positions? How many did you meet with? So I ran this off for each one of you. It's in the back. These 18 positions are real positions. These are real people. When we talk about the 2 grade 3 teachers at Shepherd Hill, the grade 2 teacher at Moosup, the grade 3 teacher at Moosup, the Plainfield Memorial Central Middle School teacher who's in health, the 4 teachers at Plainfield High School, the career coordinator, the social worker, the IT staff, these are employees that we've already pink slipped. These are employees where we've already sat down with them. Their union has sat down with them. We've already put out reduction in force paperwork to these employees. These are actual people who are working in our school whose positions we reduced so that I wasn't bringing to the Board of Finance a 7 or 8 or 9% budget, because I know that the town of Plainfield can't accept that, and that wouldn't be fiscally responsible. So baked into this number is already larger class sizes next year. They will be larger next year than they are this year. We will have less IT support. We'll have reduced administrative support across these buildings. But despite these severe cuts, I worked hard to preserve the things the community told me to preserve. We added a school resource officer last year. At our last Board of Ed meeting, we presented how much better the discipline numbers are, how the fights are significantly down, how we're seeing significantly better behavior. I actually had a school security guard who's been in the district over 10 years say at the meeting that Plainfield High School has never been better, it's never felt safer. Despite those, we kept those pieces in. I know people are unhappy about health insurance costs. I'm unhappy about them too. I've tried to be incredibly transparent about those costs. We worked very hard. A question came up, do those 18 cuts tie into those health insurance costs? They're already baked in there. We've already cut those positions from the health insurance. Did you do everything you can to get the best rates? I think that Mr. Cunningham and our town business manager would tell you of the multiple meetings we have with insurance vendors, putting it out to bid in the community, the multiple meetings we had reviewing it with USI and other consultants to be sure that we had the most fiscally responsible plan. I know when you look at these numbers, I remind the Board of Finance that I've been able to hold the insurance flat for my 5 years that I've been here. In fact, I don't think I've ever had more than a 1 or 2% in insurance. If you look at the back of the paper that I gave you there, the school's budget without that health insurance increase is a 1.56% increase. Most of that number is cost of living. And it's not just hitting us, it's hitting everyone. Which is why the governor had an urgent bailout for municipalities. Because he knows that's there. I had an additional question about speech and language. They said you've got 2 speech and language positions in that budget. You budget them at $65,000. We do. We believe that the best way to approach this is to say we're going to try to do this the most fiscally responsible way. When we don't fill those positions, we have to contract those services. I checked just before I came in because I wanted to get this number correct. We have to pay outsourced for speech and language $103 an hour. It's like paying an attorney. That's how expensive some of those outsources are. Ultimately, this is a bare-bone budget that already reflects significant, painful cuts. We heard last night from the community, people speaking to move forward the budget as is. I tell you that we've already worked really hard to trim. I appreciate the work the board did. I appreciate the questions you've asked me. And my ask is to move forward this budget as presented to the public. Thank you.
Thank you for answering the questions that we had given you today. Okay, so the next is to revise and set the fiscal budget for 2026-2027. So we would start with discussions on some of the things that I know we have some concerns on that we're still looking to adjust. We want to stay on track to adjust the budget tonight because I know there's going to be a lot of discussion on that. Would anyone like to start with something that they want to bring up to the board?
I'd like to make a motion to pass the budget as presented by both the town and the Board of Ed.
I'd like to look at the capital plan.
There's a motion on the floor, I think.
We can have a discussion with it.
Well, if there's no second, then the motion's down the floor anyway, so.
We'll just bring up projected.
I think we should make some reductions on the capital plan. The elevator this year, I think that should come out.
I'm sorry, Sean, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, the microphone's on. The elevator, I think, should come out this year.
For some reason, it's like echoing, Sean, it is difficult to hear down here.
I think we should take the elevator out this year. The highway lift for $200,000, I think that should come out this year and get a better plan on that. And possibly the capital strategic committee that has not, or plan that has not been developed yet, reduction in that from $500,000, bring that down a little bit. Because our capital spending for other fund balance has gotten pretty big this year. Conservatively, we've been spending under $1 million out of that. This year we're at a $1,778,000. So I think we should do a little bit of savings out of the capital plan to start with.
If we remove those two, that would put us at $380,000 removed, and the capital non-reoccurring is at $500,000. So if that could be brought to the town at a later date this year.
Yeah, but I think we should bring the capital down a little bit from 500,000. For a plant that hasn't even been started yet, to put $500,000 over there, it's kind of crazy. I say we bring that down to like 300,000 for seed money.
And I know we'll need to put it in tonight before we push the budget forward.
This is just discussion.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, definitely.
This is discussion amongst ourselves right now. So
Yeah.
we might have a completely different idea or tell me I'm wrong, and we can discuss that.
I just want to say we have to make it contingent, that money, or however much we decide as a board to put on, based on if the board of selectmen pass that on their meeting tonight. And if they don't, then it would need to be removed, or whatever the amount we decide to be. Any opinions? Let's start with just the capital non-reoccurring and where we think that the amount of money we want to put in. We currently have $500,000 dedicated for it.
Okay, well, I'm having a tough time with the capital non-recurring at this point, because apparently we had capital non-recurring, or we have one, but it's been closed and it hasn't been used since 2000. State statute says that we're the budget making authority, we create the capital non-recurring, we send it to the legislative body and they approve it, but we're not even sure if we have it, we don't have it, what we're doing. The Board of Selectmen is just finding this out. Our finance director is finding it out. We have no time, I don't know what to do with this. If it's already in existence and the town already voted on it way back when, we need to know that. If they never voted on it and it wasn't created, it's not implemented by a policy, it's enacted by a legislative vote of the people. So I'm kind of up in the air, I'm gonna abstain. I don't, if any amount's voted for this, I think I'm gonna abstain, or I'm gonna be a no vote until we have the history and the understanding of what's going on with this account. Because if this account was stopped, by who and when and why, if the people originally voted for us to have a set aside, I don't know. And I don't think Lisa, Mr. Cunningham, or the other two selectmen, if they have any information on it, I would love to hear it right now.
If there's anything you'd like to say, you're more than welcome.
It's 3 accounts that haven't been touched in over 20 years. So I brought it up to the auditor's attention, and the idea was if you created one now, it would be created and you could transfer it, but ideally you would close those first, and that would have to come to you. And then you would be able to transfer to it. But to me, those funds are just sitting there, inactive, not being utilized. I'd rather close that account, have your permission move it to the general fund, and just create a new CNR, clean, like we're discussing here, and get the proper approval. Our charter says the Board of Selectmen can create it and you guys fund it. And that's where we're going with it, and that's also the approval from the auditor today.
But I'm not understanding it like that, so I would like legal input. Because I'm understanding our selectmen have the authority over policy. They do not have the authority to create the fund. We create the fund with sending it then to the people who have the vote. So I would like some kind of discernment or understanding of that. And if this account was already created, when, why was it stopped? Do we have to recreate it? I don't have enough information. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, I'm not going to usurp the power of the legislative body. That I will never take away the power of the people. I'm not about that. That's where I stand on that. We don't have enough information.
The idea of this policy was to give it to the legislative body to vote. The idea was to give them more power.
Because then they have to vote on anything we do instead of just being lumped into the rest of the budget.
So how much is in the account now?
There's 3 small accounts, one is like 500, each, but we're talking 40,000.
And they've been inactive for about 20 years.
I mean, I'm not rebuking the CNR. A lot of towns have the capital non-recurring. I think it might even be a great thing for a town moving forward. I just want to make sure that we're doing it right. And do we have to recreate? Is it still considered created? And we can act on it and send it on to the people? That's all I'm saying.
Can we create it with proviso that if we need to, we'll fund it down the road after the questions are
I don't
answered?
know.
I don't know.
We need to legal and put on, I don't know what we do here. I don't know when something is originally created and then put in non-existence form for 20 years. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
Lucy, would that have anything to do with like general auditing principles where 7 years is, that's it, it's defunct?
I wouldn't, it's not my area of expertise. I wouldn't be comfortable answering that.
So if we remove that at this point, took that out of the budget also, and you guys go through your due diligence and create this capital non-recurring account, we can, later on, at some point during the year, you can come to us and ask us to fund that through the fund balance.
We actually create it, Sean, according to the statute. We actually have to vote.
Well,
for it.
this will give us time to clarify how
Right.
that process has to happen. But we could, that doesn't have to necessarily be in the budget, because that's gonna come out of fund balance money. And we can move money out of fund balance, no, we can't, because that's, well, it's still gonna go to people to move it.
Yeah, so-
But it can still happen later and float out.
That's what you want to do, but, the whole idea is we're trying to get a solid plan here. We're trying to stop with the idea of a wish list. I wish we knew about this before 15 minutes before the meeting.
Right.
This is the problem. And you can always create one, and you still have the power to transfer, even if there wasn't one. You could create a new one and transfer it too.
What if we put the money in there, if we put it in the budget as a line item, and that account never gets created, the money doesn't transfer, right?
Correct, stay there. It's not like July 1st, this will transfer automatically.
Would that make you comfortable?
What's okay, you can ask Lisa, if we put money into it, and then we send it off to the legislative body, in essence, in doing that, are we creating it, and then are we giving them an opportunity to vote yea or nay on it? But if that's the case, I want it made very clear to the public, that if they're voting yes on the money, they're also voting on the CNR itself, that's,
Not necessarily. We're just putting it as a placeholder in the budget.
You're just reserving it, you're not spending it. There's a difference between a reserve versus an actual dollars going out the door. You're allocating saying this money is going to be reserved for capital.
It's like putting it from one savings account to another savings
Restricting
account.
it.
I'm good with that, I guess.
It's tying it up until we can do the due diligence to make sure it's created properly, then it will transfer.
Yeah, you can make it restricted capital.
Yeah, we
if
need
you
to
just want to follow
see
that for
something,
now.
I would prefer, before I'm gonna go to unrestrict that, I wanna see something in writing from the town attorney saying how the process is, and then go, then it can be utilized from there, but I'm not, I just wanna know what the proper procedure is here. This is the problem, Sean. For years, stuff has been done here, there, and everywhere, and we have no policies, procedures, protocols, and then we're finding stuff out 5 minutes before a meeting like this, and it's not okay. I want to know when I sit here, I want to be educated on the process, and I want to know I'm doing right by my community. That's,
I think they're trying to do better. I think they're working with us and trying to make it better. I truly feel that that's what's going on right now.
Could we think about perhaps not funding or not restricting 500,000? That's a hefty amount of money. Perhaps 250 or 300,000. Restrict that until we.
You can always restrict it without even creating a fund. You can restrict a line item to be used for capital to be determined at a later date. It doesn't even have to be a fund. You're allowed to do that.
Does that sound good? Is that, do you know me?
So, like I said, my thought was to drop that down, so you say the 300,000, drop out the list, and drop out the elevator this year. And then they'll give them time to work on a better plan to make sure we get what we need, what's proper, and we're not just running around just spending money for no reason.
I mean, ideally, yeah, I'd like to have the lead on that calculated this vehicle that was created in the past, we can go forward using it, and then the board of selectmen can implement the policy on it. That would be great.
So we were that as dropping it to 300,000 and restricting it for capital?
that's what we want to do.
Instead of calling it CNR, we call it restricted.
Restricted for capital.
You can call it restricted for CNR.
Yeah.
I mean, that would tell you what it's for. It's just it's restricted until we can make sure it's ready to go. So how's everybody feel on this?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Is
not
everyone
hearing
comfortable with that?
I'm much more comfortable dropping it and restricting it. I'm not in favor of, let's have a wish list and let's throw some spaghetti against the wall and see what's gonna stick. I think it's fiscally irresponsible to just have a wish list with, so I'm all for a fund for future use. So if we restrict it and we restrict 300,000 for potentially to use as a CNI, then great.
I don't think Naomi's against the CNR, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm not.
She just wants to make sure that we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, I want to
So
make
let
sure
us
it's set up
circle back.
proper, I
Look
want
at
to make
the
sure it's
terms, look at
funded
that
proper.
straight.
I want to make sure it's set up and funded properly, and that way going forward, we're also, we know, like, okay, what will town report put in it every year. I want this to be done correctly, so it's something that's long lasting and good for our community. I don't want to set up with a fractured foundation, and then it's going to be scrutinized, and it's just going to become a problem, and then it's going to possibly sit for 20 years empty again. We need to make sure everything is being done, you know, properly as we can. So, yeah, I'm good with restricting it, and then if we can find out what's proper, what's legally right here.
Is everyone comfortable with the 300,000 for that? And these were just discussing, it's not an actual vote.
What happens if something, I don't know, we don't know what we're doing. See building it, let's just say something comes up and you need to spend, we want to spend more than 300,000, where do we get that money?
They come and ask us for it. And then we have a vote, and the citizens come out and approve it or deny it.
No, I think over 50,000, I believe.
Any appropriation over 50,000 has to be brought to the town. You guys can appropriate between 10 and 50,000 according to terms.
And then a referendum's around 8,000 every, right?
For voting for referendum?
Yeah.
If you have it in one place, it's about 2,500.
Okay, that's a lot better. Okay. And how does everyone feel about removing those two items? The elevator for 180,000 and the truck lift for 200,000?
I'm not comfortable with, removing the truck.
I don't think we do. I don't know that we do. He didn't come and tell us he needed it.
I've heard you guys discussing this before, so, it's not my wheelhouse, but just from what I heard, it's safer. I mean, that's what I heard.
Safe to work on the ground, not lifting. It's a big truck.
That's 200,000, so if we were to use that later on, that would use most of the 300,000 that we're giving them for that.
And that's not a firm figure, that's,
Yes, that's an estimate. Not like an official estimate,
and that's where I have another piece of the problem.
Yep, that was a part of the conversation of why they wanted to remove that, because we don't have a real quote for that yet.
I'm just trying to get that capital expenditure down. Look how hard it's, you have 1.7 million coming out of there.
And that's money that was coming out of the fund balance anyway, so it's really not affecting our mill rate.
Your fund balance was already at 19.97% before I came in. And this is off the plan in February to 15 to 20.
Yep. Any other questions on capital before we move on? Concerns, anything?
So what happens, we don't appropriate all the money, goes back into the, fund?
It would increase the fund balance, if that's what you guys
It just stays
Want
there.
us to do? Well, you just said our mill rate was, we capped it at 20%.
You didn't necessarily cap it, that's a recommendation of 15 to 20%. We did not say it would not exceed 20%. Okay.
Yeah, that was just the recommended amount that,
We said it can't go below 12 in an emergency. You have to make a plan.
Remember, we got air conditioners coming pretty quick here at the school. Heating systems and all that are gonna be upgraded very soon.
And now, do we have to make the motion also to, that 100,000 for Lions Park is not gonna be allocated to Lions Park?
We are
That's already been
Already
fixed.
changed that.
That's already changed.
yeah, we just discussed the items and then we all decide on voting for the entire budget.
On the sheet that we gave out last night, it showed that as Warrior Park and,
Baseball field.
the baseball
Yeah,
fields.
yeah, we moved it
That
from the
100,000
line.
over there.
It's highlighted in yellow and publishing that. That was done right after the election.
Should I make my motion again, Charles?
Not yet.
Would anyone like to bring up something other than the capital? And then there were some other questions or concerns.
I'm not okay with the raises.
The elected official raises?
Yeah, the 9
Or-
points, yeah, I'm not okay with that.
I know we've had a lot of discussion on that, and then we were waiting to hear from the public yesterday. And we had one person bring up a question about it, but not as much discussion as we expected, so the board will have to.
I'm not in favor of 9.63%, and I'm going to steadfast in that.
Contractual,
It's not contractual.
no, but the contractual ones were like 3%.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with that.
You know, from talking to board members separately, that we were thinking 5 or 6%, somewhere in there.
I think that's too much.
I would like to see for the electric fleet, and I would like to see for the recreation, other than part-time and full-time, I understand that percentage, but even those three, I'm not okay with 5 and then 2%. We have, and I understand that there was a comment made that it had to do with performance. We have no standards of performances in this town. We have no job descriptions really for everybody. There's no like tier system. I know Lisa has commented that her and the human resource person are possibly working more on that. I think until we have that to say 2 for one, 3 for another, 5 for somebody else, that you're getting into really muddy waters there, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's no union contract for rec, and the department head is 5% because we didn't take a raise last year. That was why they went to 5. So you're talking about we go one position at 2%.
I think what Naomi wanted was all 3 positions to be at the 3%. I understood, right?
Even though the other 2 didn't take a raise last year.
And why didn't they take raises last year? I
Because
wasn't
the
on the
budget
board.
cuts, the budget cuts, that's what that's for.
And the rec was cut a lot last year.
It's my understanding that the positions that were put in for the 9 point whatever,
Yeah, okay, the elected officials.
they were all, you know, we're not giving raises to people, we're giving raises to job titles.
Yeah,
And
it's a very good clarification.
there's 2 things. I mean, one, I don't know if we can do anything about, but both job descriptions are severely underpaid. If we did a wage survey study on this, even if it's just on this end of the state, they're all underpaid.
But have we
But I
done that
also-
study?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You're also, they sacrifice an increase, maybe it wasn't last year, maybe it was the year before, but at one point in time, I remember there was a 3% increase across the board and they reduced that. So, you know, maybe it shouldn't be 9, maybe what we're saying, you know, 5 or 6. But I don't think we should just totally eliminate the fact that both those things that I brought up are
And in the budget that, presentation that Lisa had made for us, it does have all the pay rates for those positions in nearby towns, and they are underpaid.
How is that survey and analysis done?
Well, but it's going on my reference right in the packet that is up.
But how do we do the demographics on the size of the towns,
It was
job
on the side of the
performances?
It was around 15,000, and I highlighted those that were 15,000. It was the one that had the black cover.
I mean, if we want to use numbers, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Mr. Gagnon gave numbers last night at the public hearing about the population being predominantly more seniors than children coming into the community. If that factually is true, which I don't know where his numbers came from, so, but I listened to everyone that got up and spoke and took notes. Our senior population is living on a fixed income. So they're not getting 9% raises. That's $8,000 a year. Let that ingest. I've never received an $8,000 a year raise at any job I've ever done, no matter what my job title was. So I'm having a hard time with that for our population. Gas prices are up, electricity is up, home heating oil's up, everyone's struggling. I understand we have great employees. I'm not discrediting their work at all. But we also have to factor real life. 3%, 2%, I can wrap my head around that. 9%, 15%, 20%, I can't. I'm sorry, no. We don't live in a lot of really rich towns. We live in Plainfield.
I still have the opinion of going with 5% to help boost them up because we know they are underpaid and they could possibly move to another town.
And they work 5 days a week, not 4 either.
And then where would you be if you lose these people? You may have to pay somebody another $20,000 a year against the money. So if we have good people, I think, that are underpaid, we should reward them. I'm not for the 10%, I think that's way too high, but 5% is, we're working to get them to where they should be.
I would definitely be comfortable with the 5%.
My other concern is you have the person that is in charge and leading the contract negotiations. And that they're looking at getting a higher raise than the union workers. The union workers are getting 3. So
I don't know the exact years, but I know there was years that they took no raises at all.
Correct me, Sean, is that the difference between employees and elected officials, or?
first selectmen should be taking a 3.
I missed your point.
I think the first selectman should take the same raises as the lowest raises, which is 3.
Well, actually, that would be 2.
Well, that one should be a 2. That one should be a 3 also.
Yeah, we're adjusting that one. Are we?
If you're doing raises, the lowest one should be a 3.
I agree.
And the guy in charge should take leading by example.
I guess we start with, do we all agree that the 2% needs to be adjusted to 3% for that rep associate? Okay. And then the other 2 for the rep that are at 5%. What are we thinking as a board for that? 3?
I still think 5. She's not a highly paid individual, and she works really hard.
You're just saying 20 grand more.
I'm okay with that one staying at 5.
The 2 rep positions?
Yeah, I think so, because they're up 61,000 a year.
They didn't get a raise last year.
And they didn't get raises last year. I'd be okay with that one. And if everybody doesn't feel that the 9.6 is a good idea, I say we take the other ones all back down to the 5 and go from there. So it's a 3 and 5.
Well, I think it should be at least 6, because they did miss a year.
No, I don't agree with that at all.
We're gonna swallow over 1%?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you can always vote on it.
Well, it's 5%, I want equitable.
Which ones?
If we're not gonna have a tier system and we have no job performance, no job descriptions, and we're not putting these people through any kind of job performance ratings, then no, not 3 for one, 5 for another, because 2 of our elected officials, I believe, took pay freezes or came in with zero balanced budgets, and they work effectively just as hard as the rest, if not harder in some ways. So 5 for them. The 3, the 5, not until we have some system of rating. I think you're running into dangerous territory there. That's just, I would want to work for an employer that did that.
So you want a 3 overall?
3 or 5.
And not nitpick this one and that one and...
Just 5%
That's
for
how
rec
you
and
tell me,
5%
a
for
paid employee, I'll
elected.
give you 5, but an elected official, I'll give you 3.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't do that. How I don't know who's working harder. I don't know who's doing more for the community. I don't work with the rec director every day. I know the town clerk's always available. I know she does a great job because I have to interact with her. But other department heads, I don't know. I can't do that. I'm not going to say 3 for 1. That's why I don't believe in the 2 for 2% and then 5%. I don't work with those people. That's unfair.
But we're not giving raises to the people, we're giving raises to the job title. You're right, I don't know if Diane works better than
Right.
here, I don't.
Right.
I don't need to know that.
So you think a recreation director gets paid, should be paid more of a percentage than the town clerk?
Do I think so? Not necessarily, but.
Right, see, there's no way to
But-
determine it.
No, yes, well, there is. I mean, we did wage surveys, and that's what I'm saying,
I think that's why it should just be 5%.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You go with 3 or go with 5.
Okay.
Are you okay with that?
I'm good with that.
4.
4?
4.
We'll cut it
Right in
down
the
to
middle?
4?
Right in the middle?
We all agreed on that.
Yeah, I think that it seems like we're all in agreement with 5.
I heard you say 5.
Yeah, for sure.
5, but I think going forward, I would caution any department head, whether they're an elected official or whether they're a paid employee, don't take a pay freeze.
Right. And
Don't do it on an election year because you think you're gonna get more votes.
Right.
Because you might find out the following year when you come for a 6 and a 9, you're gonna get told no.
And the other thing is I think that if we're gonna go with the 5 across the board, then it needs to be fully understood and completely understood that this is a one-shot deal. That this can't be, we can't have people coming back to us saying, well, she didn't take an increase for the past 3 years. Listen, I have a job that I can take a pay increase for 5 years. I was not brought back up to the level that I should have been at because we couldn't afford that. This town can't afford those kinds of things. So if we're going to do a 5% increase across the board, it's a one-shot.
Okay, our state representative voted no to state employees getting raises, and she didn't hesitate.
I think
It was
we're
a
getting
no.
off track, and I don't think we can do what Virginia is suggesting.
We can say it just doesn't have, we just have to keep that in mind when next year comes
We're
around.
gonna do next year and say, well, that was just the one. I don't think we can do that. But I think we're all in
But
agreement.
I feel like
5%.
5%, and then would that be for the rec associates also that are at 5%, leave them 5, and then all of the elected officials? Okay.
I will say for me going forward, if the union contracts for the next negotiation are 3%, then that's where I'm gonna be for everybody, fair and equitable.
I agree.
Until we have something different in front of us to raise employees and departments and all that.
What's hurting us is the
That should be-
mid-cycle negotiations that are happening where they're coming in and getting raises.
Yeah, that's something that, not at this meeting, but we
Because we're seeing that in the
discuss.
numbers back here, where somebody's jumped up and well, that's because they got a raise last year during the contract.
Yeah, that was a contract.
And we didn't know about it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I had one other question about it, because I did inquire police, because I had a resident actually reach out to me about this, was the salary for the first selectman and why the actuals, we were supposed to find that out for me.
Yeah, they emailed it to you.
Okay. All right, I didn't get it.
Yeah, they're fine, because that was actually up to the dealer, you see everybody.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
Okay. So, yeah, that was all really, could really adjust for anything for rates, because that's, everything else was contracted.
So moving on from that, would be any other concerns that we want to bring up? Or-
Where did we land on the police funds?
Oh, that is in the fund balance on the, for the capital.
Okay, I missed it, okay.
Yep.
Fair
And I
enough.
confirmed with Mario that he was, very appreciative of the way that we adjusted the capital for the police department. Because we removed the lockers, because we want to try to get grants for those. And then we added money into the police vehicle, because it didn't account for all of the extras that a police vehicle needs. And we added the rentals back in.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Any other thing, or we'd be looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to push the town budget and the capital, budget to referendum
With the adjustments that we...
with the adjustments that we've just discussed.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Were you... Okay, sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
I'm sorry.
Should we do a roll call? Did you have your... Yeah, okay. Yep. That's everyone, so motion passes.
I make a motion that we put forward the Board of Education budget as presented.
Was that just for the town? What did you say, capital?
Yes, you said
Capital
capital.
and town, the Board of
Okay.
Education, because we hadn't discussed anything before.
So I just had one question on the Board of Education budget.
Yep.
Mr. Referendum. So you gave us this, thank you. My brain, for some reason, call it ADHD brain, is not computing this money coming from the state into revenue. I'm trying. There's a whole 800 something thousand, because I thought there was a certain amount that was going to revenues towards the school. Is that correct?
So ultimately, all the revenues all go to the town. And what they did was they used the educational cost sharing formula, ECS, and they said, Lisa may have the exact number, but it's a little over 600,000. And they said, based on that formula, we're giving 600,000 to offset school increases. And then there was additional money, I believe they called it the PQAS fund.
Yes.
And that number was to the town, and that was a little over 283, and that's what gets us to the 283 plus the 614, thank you.
And so that 6 and the PQA is going to the school revenue side?
No, this goes to straight revenue. Even DCS, all revenue we get from the state for the school comes in and filters through the town. Because you vote on a budget as a whole of $55,700,000, so it's combined. So it's not broken out for where the revenue comes from. It's just you vote on the expenses, and whatever is left goes to the amount you raise by taxation.
We had talked before about if we came in today, do we say this additional revenue is here, and this isn't now a 3.9 increase, it's a 2.1 or whatever it is. And we realize that's not really true to the community. It's a 3.9% increase. It just has less of a tax burden, which was the intent of Heather Summers and the people who fought for it. I actually wrote testimony on it, and I testified on several things. I think I shared that with the community. This was one of the things I testified on.
We discussed this.
Yeah, this is one of the things I testified on. So it's all me. No, but, we testified on this to ask for this money. They gave the money. It goes to the town. Ultimately, all revenue goes to the town. If I get 3 extra students from, we have a student from Canterbury, we have that money goes to the town. And that's
If they get 10 or 3 students less, it comes out of the town. It doesn't really matter. Whatever money they get or don't get, it just comes down.
All right, that helps me with my decision, thank you. I'll second Linda's motion to move the Board of Education budget as is.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Motion carries. Yep. Okay, that's all that's on the agenda tonight. We're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Raise your hand.
I really
Okay. Motion passes.
Okay, then 7:26, we'd like to start the special Board of Selectmen meeting. I'd ask that you please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Mike Supranat. Tom Sinkwitz. Kevin Cunningham. We have 3 items under new business. Consider to act on adding possible adjustments to the town of Plainfield 26-27. The Board of Finance has already done that for us, but I would just ask if you are all in agreement with what has been transpired. So,
I'll make a motion to send the budget forward with the changes made by the Board of Finance.
I'll second that.
any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
2 other items, consider an act on approving the capital non-recurring fund policy. I'm going to ask that we table that, and we'll ask for the attorney for their opinion on this, so we can move forward.
I agree.
Motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table,
Consider an act on
capital,
approving.
yep, capital non-recurring fund balance.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The third one is definitely, we've talked about this being needed. It is something we have within the budget, so consider an act on approving the town road fund policy.
I'll make a motion to approve the town road fund policy.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And there is no other action, so at this time I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.